The film unfolds with a gathering of individuals engaged in an arms transaction. The proceedings are abruptly disrupted by the arrival of police vehicles. In a state of agitation, the arms dealer known as Otto Creed brandishes his firearm, leading the officers to tragically open fire, resulting in his demise. This incident sparks a brief but intense shootout, claiming the lives of Bobby Saint and others involved. Mickey, the individual who brought Bobby to the meeting location, faces arrest in the aftermath. Subsequently, it is revealed that Otto Creed miraculously survives, expressing his discontent with his profession. Further revelations disclose that he was undercover on an FBI mission. At his retirement celebration, his close associate Russell discloses his true identity as Frank Castle. A toast is raised, honoring him for his exemplary service as the finest FBI agent. The subsequent day sees Frank reconciling with his wife, Maria, and son, Will. Despite Will's discontent with their frequent relocations, Frank assures him that this move will be the last, promising understanding in the future. Tragedy strikes as Bobby's brother, John Saint, breaks the news of Bobby's demise to their parents, causing his mother to faint. They proceed to release Mickey from custody and subject him to a brutal interrogation regarding Bobby's death. Mickey contends that Bobby joined him willingly and had no knowledge of the tragic outcome. The father, Howard Saint, arrives in a state of agitation, insisting that the individual responsible for protecting his son must pay. He shoots one of his own men, emphasizing the order to never let Bobby out of sight. At Bobby's funeral, Howard's close friend Quentin discloses details about Frank's whereabouts and his intention to relocate to London the following month. This information is obtained from Russell, whom they coerced into exposing him for stealing money from the federal evidence locker. Quentin reveals that Frank is presently at a family reunion in Puerto Rico. In response, Howard instructs Quentin to eliminate him. The wife nonchalantly intervenes, suggesting the elimination of his entire family. During the family reunion, as everyone enjoys festivities, Frank's father summons him inside, revealing customized weapons. He raises concerns about the modifications, and his father explains their increased potency. The situation takes a drastic turn when a gunshot is heard, leading to his mother falling with a gunshot wound. Amidst gunfire, Frank and his father, armed, prepare to confront the threat. They manage to defend themselves briefly until his father is shot. Despite the setback, he eliminates the threat. Subsequently, he spots Maria and Will making a run for it. He quickly grabs a bike to protect them. Unfortunately, his adversaries reach them first, tragically running them over. Overwhelmed by grief, Frank cries while embracing their lifeless bodies. Saint's men, hidden and awaiting his arrival, return, beating and shooting him, emphasizing that this time the bullets are real. They set the dock on fire, causing a massive blast that propels Frank into the water. As evening falls, Frank washes up on the shore, where he is rescued by a friend named Delirious, who promises to care for him. 5 months later, Frank revisits the tragic scene, retrieving a weapon. Expressing gratitude to Delirious for his assistance, he departs, but Delirious stops him, urging him to go with God. Frank replies, stating that God will sit this one out. Subsequently, he rents an apartment, where he meticulously cleans and organizes his weapons. Concurrently, he customizes his vehicle, setting the stage for his plan to seek vengeance against the men who slain his family. In his pursuit of justice, Frank apprehends Mickey and subjects him to torture, extracting valuable information about the Saints. Mickey, sharing a mutual disdain for the Saints, decides to assist Frank. He reveals that Howard, the mastermind, safeguards and launders illicit funds for the Toro brothers in his bank located in Grand Cayman. He also provides Frank with the family's daily routines and discloses a shocking revelation. Howard's wife was the one who proposed the idea of eliminating Frank's family. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Frank embarks on a meticulous mission. He tails the Saints, discreetly capturing photographic evidence of their daily activities. Simultaneously, he compiles notes detailing their arrival and departure times. The following day, Frank visits Howard's bank, directing the men to fill his briefcase with money and discard the rest out the window. The next day, the Toro brothers confront Howard, expressing their displeasure over a substantial loss of $50 million. They demand the return of their money before departing. Quentin informs Howard that he hired a professional from Memphis, predicting Frank's demise within the next 24 hours. The subsequent night, Frank tails Ms. Saints to the theater. There, he steals her car and drives to the Wyndham Hotel. Along the way, he uses her phone to contact Quentin, employing a voice changer to expose Quentin's secret. Frank reveals possession of pictures featuring Quentin and his boyfriend, demanding a meeting at the Wyndham Hotel with $5,000, or the images will be leaked. At the hotel, Frank parks the car outside, resulting in a parking ticket. Meanwhile, Howard searches for Quentin, questioning John, who claims not to have seen him. Howard then inquires about Ms. Saint, and John reminds him that it's Thursday, the day she typically attends movies. Mickey informs Howard that he spotted Quentin at the Wyndham Hotel a couple of hours ago. Howard locates them and questions Quentin's whereabouts. Quentin fabricates a story, claiming he was outside at the pool, suggesting Mickey needs to have his eyes checked. The following day, Frank finds himself at a diner when a musician enters, delivering a chilling song directed at him. Once finished, the musician approaches, inquiring if he enjoyed the song. He claims to have written it specifically for Frank, and announces his intention to sing it at his funeral. It later becomes apparent that this man is the professional from Memphis, hired by Quentin to eliminate Frank. He tails him to a bridge and opens fire on his car. Despite the attack, Frank manages to escape, sparking a brief yet intense car chase that concludes with Frank crashing. Observing the crash, the hitman moves in to finish the job, only to fall victim to Frank's unexpected counterattack, resulting in his demise. The subsequent night, Frank employs a claymore mine to obliterate one of Howard's shipments carrying the Toro brothers' money. The Toro brothers confront Howard, expressing their frustration over the additional financial loss. Howard defends himself, pointing out that out of 15 shipments, 14 were successful, and yet the failure of one has the Toro brothers ready to blame him severely. He asserts his advantage by reminding them of his superior firepower before instructing Quentin to engage a Russian hitman to eliminate Frank. The Russian finds Frank and immediately launches into an assault. Frank attempts to defend himself, but is initially overpowered due to the Russian's superior strength. The battle rages on until Frank gains the upper hand, incapacitating the Russian by dousing him with a pot of hot oil and then pushing him down the stairs, resulting in the hitman's death. Following the altercation, Frank's neighbor Joan comes to his aid, tending to his injuries. After a brief moment, Howard's men came searching for Frank. They quickly conceal him in an elevator shaft to evade detection. Quentin resorts to torturing Dave, pulling out his piercings with a pair of pliers to extract information about Frank's whereabouts. Despite the severe torture, Dave remains steadfast, refusing to divulge any critical information. After the men depart, John instructs one of them to linger at the apartment, poised to assassinate Frank upon his return. Forewarned about the looming danger, Frank resourcefully secures a machete, utilizing it to dispatch the assailant. Eager for revenge, he gathers his weapons and sets out to end his fight. He follows Mrs. Saint to the theater, sticking to his usual plan. Reaching out to Quentin once more, Frank reiterates his threat to disclose the photograph of Quentin and his boyfriend. This time, he commands Quentin to present himself at McNabb's men's store at 9 p.m., with the ultimatum of bringing $10,000 or facing exposure on his own dedicated website. Subsequently, he communicates with Mickey, signaling him to initiate their prearranged plan. Mickey approaches Howard, reporting his discovery of a parking ticket in Mrs. Saint's car, and queries whether he should settle it. Howard inquires about the ticket's location, and upon learning it was issued at the Wyndham Hotel the previous Thursday, he connects the dots with Mickey's earlier observation of Quentin at the same location. Seeking further evidence, Howard requests Quentin's house key from Mickey and instructs him to procure the phone bill for the last month, piecing together the intricacies of Quentin's recent activities. At Quentin's residence, Howard discovers an earring belonging to Mrs. Saint, a gift from him, in Quentin's bed. Upon Quentin's return, Howard accuses him of betrayal and fatally stabs him multiple times. Awaiting Mrs. Saint return from the movies, Howard confronts her with accusations of infidelity with Quentin, using the parking ticket as evidence. Despite her attempts to explain, asserting Quentin's homosexuality, Howard, unswayed, physically assaults her and forcefully takes her to their old neighborhood. There, he callously throws her onto the train tracks, resulting in her death. Subsequently, Frank sets out to kill Howard. He eliminates a guard and proceeds to plant explosives on vehicles and escape routes around the building. A surprise assault on Howard and his guards ensues, sparking a short-lived gunfight. While Frank engages Howard's men, Howard seizes the moment to flee. After eliminating the final guard with a knife thrust to the chin, Frank pursues Howard. Finding Howard, Frank shoots him, then reveals photographs of Quentin in an intimate moment with another man and a pair of Mrs. Saint's earrings, implicating Howard in the unwitting murder of his closest allies. He then secures Howard to a car, attaches an explosive, and detonates it, effectively killing him. The story concludes with Frank vacating the apartment, informing Joan of some money left for her in the cupboard. When Joan queries if he is departing, Frank hints at unfinished business, advising her to stay updated through the obituaries in the newspaper for a fuller understanding of his actions.